everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Welcome to First Global's third STEM Talk and Interview session that's part of the programming for the 2020 First Global Challenge Connecting Communities. My name is Sarah Fogwell, and I'll be moderating today's talk. One important part of community is having the opportunity to learn with each other and from each other. We're hosting a variety of sessions throughout the season with interesting and inspiring individuals involved in STEM fields so we can discuss together, answer questions together, and learn together. We're excited to have both Naoka and Victoria with us to discuss how they became engineers, what a normal day looks like, and what it's like to be a woman in engineering. We'll also be answering questions that teams around the world have submitted. So starting with our first interviewee, Naoka Gunawardena is a mechanical engineer at Dean Kamen's company, Deca Research and Development in New Hampshire. She was a member of the Girls of Steel, an all-female FIRST robotics competition team in high school, and went on to get a BS in mechanical engineering at Yale University. At Deca, she works on the mechanical design team for a medical device and loves being able to develop products that will improve people's health and standard of living. Thanks for joining us, Naoka.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
So moving on to our second guest is Victoria Coleman, who is a software engineer dedicated to automating the world one robot at a time. After engaging in FIRST programs and gaining an affinity for software, she sought out similar project-based learning at Olin College of Engineering, where she conducted research in the robotics labs and joined the Olin Robotics Sailing Club. Those experiences, in addition to various technical internships such as Disney R&D, robotics research, and a fresh startup in the educational space, those have inspired her to develop software specifically for startup robotics companies. She initially created cloud services for drone fleets and then found her way to right-hand robotics, where she currently helps develop their piece-picking solution for warehouse automation. Thanks for joining us, Victoria.
Happy to be here.
So we are going to start the first half talking about you guys, talking about, getting to know you a little better. And then the second half, we're going to get some questions from teams, some questions that they want to know from you guys. So the first question is just pretty simple. Can you tell us a little bit about yourselves, including what you do for a living and your educational background? So we can start with Naoka.
Sure. So I'm a mechanical engineer at Deca Research and Development, like Sarah said. I first got interested in engineering actually through the FIRST robotics competition. I was on an all-girls robotics team in high school out of Pittsburgh. And through that, I kind of learned that I really liked STEM. I liked robotics. I wanted to do engineering. So I decided to pursue a degree in mechanical engineering at Yale. And then throughout my college years, I kind of explored different areas in engineering. And I kind of settled on medical devices as the field that I was most passionate about through both an internship at Deca that I had and also at a startup company where I was helping to develop sensors for wearable health devices. So that kind of led me back to Deca once I had graduated because I was really excited about getting to work on technologies that would help improve people's lives.
That's awesome. I didn't know that you had interned there beforehand. That's awesome that you ended up there.
Yeah.
Victoria, what about you?
So similarly, I got introduced to STEM, specifically in engineering with FIRST Robotics. I did a number of their programs and loved them all, especially FIRST Tech Challenge with the smaller robots. And in that experience, I really learned that I love to do software. And even though I was involved in engineering a lot as a kid, I actually didn't want to become an engineer until about senior year of high school. I wanted to become a veterinarian. I loved animals. And then after sitting back and really analyzing, I realized that I love the problem solving aspect of engineering. There's a lot of problem solving veterinary, but I like creating solutions, not just solving small problems, as they come. So I dove into engineering and I went to a cool little tiny school outside of Boston called Olin College of Engineering. That's interesting because they have a 50-50 male-female ratio for the entire school and they only do engineering. So, I took off there, did a lot of project-based learning, which I learned to appreciate from my experiences in FIRST. And then from graduating, I loved software the most. I actually graduated with electrical and computer engineering degree, so more hardware focused, but software has always been my favorite. And I've gone on to create cloud services, and right now I'm a software engineer at Right Hand Robotics. So I never got too far away from robots.
And you sound very excited about it too. Like, you know, you grew up doing all this and now you get to continue working with robots, just adult robots.
It's basically a dream. They pay me money to play with robots all day, so I feel like I've pretty much won.
Yeah.
Everything I've ever wanted in life.
So then sort of on that track, playing with robots all day, we'll start with Victoria. Can you tell us what a normal day at work looks like?
Yeah, so a little bit of background for the company. We do piece picking systems for warehouse robotics, as mentioned in my intro. Essentially what that is a giant robot arm with a gripper on it. And all it does is there's a big tote of items and it figures out what item to pick, picks it out from the jumble of items, and then puts it down somewhere else. Seems very simple, but it's a really difficult problem, you know, trying to figure out how to grasp something, how to move from point A to point B, how to determine what to pick. You know, how do you pick up something you've never grabbed before? So I'm one of the software engineers there trying to solve that problem. And so because we work with robots, it's more hardware focused. Day to day, I do spend a decent amount of time watching the robots pick. You know, sometimes they do what I say, sometimes they don't. I need to catch it pretty early on. And, but that's not an entire part of my day. I do spend a lot of time in front of a computer, writing code, doing designs. It's very important to do thorough designs, get it vetted by people before you implement it, and then also review other people's work so that it's, you know, reliable before you ship all this code into the field, picking systems or picking pieces around the world.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, you're right. That is part of the dream job, working with robots all day.
Yeah, it's been a little bit different with the pandemic because I've been working remote, which is challenging when you work with remote systems or physical systems in the real world. So we have a bunch of cameras everywhere so I can watch them and I can start them remotely, and you have a lot of infrastructure to be able to do remote control of robots, which is a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Naoka, what about you? What does a normal day look like for you pre or post-pandemic?
Yeah, so DECA is a research and development company, which means that a lot of the projects we work on, some of them are taken from concept all the way through to getting ready for production in quantities of hundreds or thousands of, or hundreds of thousands. So it's cool because you get to see a lot of different phases of the development cycle. So that means that I think my job is not necessarily the same day to day. So sometimes I'm doing design work in CAD. We use SolidWorks, which I think a lot of the teams are familiar with. You know, sometimes it's trying to figure out what an issue is, finding the root cause of that issue, and then prototyping solutions for that issue. Sometimes it's doing analysis. So I do finite element analysis, which is looking at stresses on parts, whether they're going to break. So it's really different from day to day. And it is cool to be able to kind of experience those different phases of the design cycle on different days of the job. So
it sounds like it keeps you on your toes.
Definitely, yeah.
So then we'll continue on with you. So then what would you say is your favorite part of working at DECA?
I think my favorite part is the people. There are a lot of really smart people at DECA who are very talented. And as everybody who's watching probably knows, engineering is very much a team sport. It's not something you can do on your own. So having good coworkers to collaborate with is really important. And so I love being able to go to work and interact with people who are also really passionate about solving the problems that we're trying to solve. So
yeah, that's a nice environment to be in.
Yeah.
Victoria, what would you say is your favorite part about your job?
So I'm going to have to echo that. Normally I'd want to be a bit different there, but I do believe in that so strongly. My favorite part is the people that I work with. You know, I love working with robots day to day, but working with a bunch of smart individuals trying to accomplish a common goal is my favorite part. You know, it's fun to code things and, you know, see it in action with the robots, but my favorite moments by far is sitting in a conference room with a giant whiteboard and a bunch of coworkers designing solutions together, giving each other feedback, bouncing off each other's ideas. That's what I love most. And then just to be a little bit different, I do really like working with the robots. It's really cool to, you know, be typing something up in the morning and in the evening you can see something actually acting out what I wanted it to do. Well, hopefully what I wanted it to do. You know, it's a mixed bag every day. But that's really rewarding to see that tangible change, so quickly day to day. So I gave 2, but only because one of them was a repeat.
That's okay. So you guys are both talking very excitedly about your jobs, your work environment. So what are some projects that you're working on now or have worked on recently that just got you really excited? So we can jump back to Victoria.
Let's see. Most recently, I try to keep the creative spirit alive. I love coding, but it's not, really holding something. So outside of work, I like doing different crafts and building things to really, keep that side of my brain working. Recently, I've been working on a furniture project with my sister. So we're painting a futon, galaxy themed. I've been sitting down and stripping all of the paint off of it and refinishing it and learning how to work with different types of paints. And that's been a lot of fun because that's something that I enjoy doing that's also very different than the type of work I do at work. And so it's inspiring to actually, work with physical things and build things as opposed to just, writing lines of code at work like I normally do.
Wow, that is not the answer that I thought was going to come out, but that's the coolest, hobby outside of work project. Naoka, what about you?
Yeah, I don't know how to follow that. But no, I would say the project that I'm working on at DECA right now, unfortunately, I can't give any details because it is confidential, but it is a medical device and we're doing drug delivery systems. And it's something that once it gets to market, I know that a lot of people will be using and benefiting from. So it's already really rewarding being able to work on the project. And I'm really looking forward to when it does eventually get to market and I can say, hey, I had a part in making that happen. Yeah.
That's awesome. So now we're going to be moving on to questions from that teams have sent in. So the first question is from Team Republic of Korea. And it's, what are some fields in STEM career that will probably become more essential in the future? And how will they each contribute to improve our lives? So what STEM careers are up and coming that are going to be becoming more important? Naoka, if you want to start.
Sure. Like I said, my interests are kind of in the medical field. So one field that I'm really excited about is regenerative medicine. And actually, Dean Kamen's doing a lot of that stuff up in New Hampshire where I work with his initiative called ARMI, which is the Advanced Regenerative Manufacturing Institute, I believe is the correct words for that acronym. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. It's exciting to see the potential for kind of mass manufacturing of tissues and organs that are grown. And you have the potential to shorten waiting times for organs for people who need transplants, and also having less potential of rejection of the organs from the body because you're using your own cells to develop them. So personally, I think that's a really cool field. I'm not a biologist, so I don't know a lot about how it works, but I'm really excited to kind of see where that goes.
Yeah, that sounds super exciting. Victoria, what about you?
Let's see. So from a software perspective, because that's where I keep my eye down the most, I think I'm going to say machine learning, but it's not just machine learning. It's more the movement to start automating a lot of tasks that humans are currently doing. And I'm especially excited about automating a lot of menial tasks that humans are doing. And I think that that's going to really blossom coming up. Whether it's anything from, digging through resumes and sorting out people to find working for a job versus, just crunching through all that data and automating things that people used to be doing. And I think that there will be a real shift in the job market as a response to that. There's going to be a lot to do, but now that we'll be focusing our efforts on automating those things, we'll not need to find other work to do. But I guess a big opportunity is in software and automating a lot of the menial work that is currently done today, from taxes and accounting and going on from there.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of things are going to become more and more automated as we continue to develop the different things that are able to do it. Like there's a lot of jobs that are out there right now that we just don't need people to do now, or they don't need to think about it. So our next question is coming from Team Zimbabwe, and it is, what is your proudest achievement to date? Whether it be in work or in life. We can start with Victoria.
I guess work response this time. I do a lot with these pick piecing systems, and when I first started at the job, I was doing a lot of work focused specifically on customers. And so there's one particular customer that I was working with. Some of this is a bit confidential, and I was able to kind of start the project from scratch, bring it to fruition, and it's been picking in the field for years, and the customer, or for a year, I guess, not that long. The customer has been very happy with it. There's still a long way to go with that project, but that was the first like successful project that I did in my professional career, where I started it from the very beginning, followed through and saw it until it was a viable system in the field. And so the satisfaction of being able to go through that entire growth in completion was fantastic for me. You know, it wasn't the coolest project I worked on, but it was my baby and I saw it all the way through. And I liked it for that.
Being able to start to finish, feeling complete. Yeah, I understand that. Naoka, what about you?
Yeah, for me, I don't know if it's like a single achievement, but more like a series of things that I've been able to do. So things like this talk. I was able to speak at the first robotics competition kickoff a few years ago to a crowd of thousands, which was really exciting. Yeah.
I knew I recognized you.
Yeah, so it's been really cool as somebody who's young and still very early in my career to be able to have these opportunities and kind of give back and mentor in ways that I was mentored kind of through FIRST and in college and beyond. So I think that's something I'm really proud of, is that people see me as somebody who can offer some sort of knowledge or inspiration, and that I'm able to offer that. So
yeah, that's a really nice feeling to have.
Yeah.
So our next question is coming from Team Kenya. Was there a career setback that you faced which you later realized was an advantage? So something you learned from. So we'll start it with Naoka, if you have an answer for me.
Sure. So I think this was kind of a self-imposed setback. When I first started at DECA, I joined a team of 5 or 6 mechanical engineers who were already like 20 plus years into their career, and I was fresh out of my undergraduate degree. So that was pretty intimidating. And I think for myself, I tried to stay a little bit small and kind of stay in my lane. And you know, I felt like because I didn't have the kind of experience that they had, maybe I shouldn't, you know, speak out when I was seeing things that were being done inefficiently or that kind of thing. And I think the way I saw that as an advantage later was that I was bringing in new perspectives and new skills that a lot of those engineers didn't have. So we were all learning from each other. And I think that's been the coolest thing. I'm still on that team and I'm still the youngest member of that team, but I feel like such an equal contributor. So I think it just took a little bit of time for me to recognize that they all respected me the way I respected them, and we all had something different to offer. So
yeah, and that's also a super rewarding feeling, knowing that some of the ideas that you're bringing in are actually being implemented and listened to equally. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Victoria, what about you?
First experience that I thought was a disadvantage with my career, let's see. My first job out of college, I was at a tiny startup, and when they first hired me, they said that I'd be working on the control system for one of their like little tiny drones. And I was so excited about that because I had a background in robotics, that it'd be cool. And then when I showed up, they're like, JK, we actually have this other project we really need you to work on. And it was about cloud services. And I'm like, is this something that I have no background in? I'm not particularly interested in it, but I'm new. I'm going to try to help us accomplish our goals, and it's going to be great. And so when I joined the team, I was the only one working on this project, and I was worried that I wouldn't have the mentorship that I needed. So I thought it was a disadvantage for two reasons: that it wasn't my interest area and that I wouldn't have mentorship that was helpful. Eventually, one or two other people joined the team. And looking back, mentorship is great. I highly recommend it, love it. But I was able to become very independent and learn how to learn on my own and not have to rely on other people. So that ended up being helpful. And then in my current job, while I'm not doing cloud services, I end up doing some front-end work that's actually useful to my current job because I've helped some doing front-end interfaces, and having some familiarity with, front-end web dev work was advantageous for the current career that I absolutely love. So at the time, I wasn't a huge fan of it and was really worried, but it worked out for me in the end. And I'm glad it did.
Yeah, comes full circle. So moving on to our next questions from Team Thailand. So did you ladies have any personal role models or inspirational figures that motivated you to pursue a career in STEM? So we are also going to jump back to Victoria.
I would say, kind of closer to home because they have the biggest impact in your life is definitely my dad. So actually both of my parents are engineers, and my dad was probably, the biggest impact. He did like some electrical engineering, and I was always inspired by his approach to everything. He was incredibly thorough and just had that engineering mindset. And I, as a kid, decided that I wanted to be like that. And I thought it was cool that he approached the world in that way. And he taught me that, engineering isn't really a set of skills, it's more a mindset. And then you use those set of skills to accomplish, those goals in that direction. So, I had been inspired in some ways by bigger figures, but just the exposure to my dad was definitely what, honed it in for me. And I'd say he's a big reason why I'm an engineer today.
Yeah, that's an amazing answer. Naoka, what about you?
Yeah, so when I was little, I wanted to be an astronaut. So I spent a lot of time learning about space and astronauts. And so one of my personal role models is Mae Jemison, who was actually the first Black woman in space. She was an engineer. Well, she still is. She's an engineer, a doctor, and an astronaut, which is crazy. And she was one of the first examples of someone who was breaking barriers in terms of diversity, and also being able to do all these amazing things in these fields that were traditionally expected to be filled by men. So she was someone I really looked up to, and I still do.
So that actually brings us perfectly into our next question. So we're talking a question from Team Cambodia. So why is diversity important in STEM fields? So actually, we'll jump it right back to you.
Sure. I think diversity is so important in STEM fields because everybody brings a unique perspective based on both their learned and lived experiences. Especially for me as an engineer who's working on products for humans. I think a lot about how we're making products for diverse humans, so the people behind the products should have diverse ideas and backgrounds. I think that the experiences we have because of our race, gender, etc., kind of inform how we solve problems and how we think about the people we're solving problems for. So I think it's really important in that way.
Yeah, agreed wholeheartedly. Victoria, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna echo what you said. You said that very well, and kind of focus on that last part where engineering is all about designing things for humans. And if the designers don't have great representation of who we're designing it for, which is generally a large variety of humans, then it's not going to be designed very well. To give like a tiny specific example is like at work recently, they were deciding the height for a user interface. And, an all male, fairly tall team was like, yeah, we tested it out in person with a variety of members of the team, and this is, the correct height. And we kind of looked back and like, oh, did you try it on any, shorter people, like the average height for women or something? And they were just like, oh no, should we have, and it's kind of just shocking that it hadn't even crossed their mind to consider more of a variety of people in doing their design for people, because their target audience was warehouse workers and there's a ton of variety there. And if they had more diversity in their team, maybe little things like that they would have thought of or considered. So I'm just going to underline everything she said and just supplement it with a very specific and small example to show you why it's important.
Yep, agreed 100%. So our next question is coming in from Team Suriname, which is, what were some obstacles that you faced as a woman, and what were the benefits that your gender brought you in this field? So we can start with Victoria.
Sounds good. Well, my last example is kind of a very specific segue into that, even just being a shorter human with a variety of needs. I was able to bring that to the table and help encourage better design decisions to be more inclusive of the variety of, humans that are there. And for some obstacles that I face, I find that it can be kind of intimidating to be in a room of all men, especially ones that's not very diverse, and being that single woman. And part of it is just getting past that mental block that you might have. And a lot of them are very, you can be in those environments and they can be very inclusive, but it still can be slightly intimidating, especially when I found that some men can be very strong with their opinions and very assertive and authoritative. And it's a little bit of a sweeping statement, but I'm certainly not like that myself. So I struggle with making sure that I feel like my voice is heard. And a lot of it in diversity is not that you have a particular one thing to bring to the table. It's just you have more diverse experiences by being a diverse person. And it's hard to know what exactly you'll bring to the table in any moment. But the point is that what you bring is slightly different from other people. And the more difference there is, the better solution that you'll have and the more considerations you can have. So I don't have a particular answer, more of just it's important to have that diversity, and affects everything large and small, and it's so nuanced, it's hard to call out.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it sort of went with the question that we were talking about beforehand as well. Naoka, do you have an answer for us as well?
Sure, yeah, I think I'm going to kind of echo almost exactly what Victoria said. I think at certain parts in my college career and then my working career, I felt some imposter syndrome. So looking around, I don't see a lot of people who look like me. So it's kind of easy to wonder whether I actually belong there. But like Victoria was saying, and like we were talking about earlier, I think diversity and being a woman, I bring different perspectives and experiences to the table. And so that's a way I've been able to kind of flip that imposter syndrome on its head, is recognizing that, yeah, I do have a place here and I'm bringing a unique set of skills to my team. And I'm a contributing team member who should be here and needs to be here.
Yeah, and that's such a good attitude to have, and I think everyone needs to have it, especially females in the engineering field. So sort of on that same line of thought, a question from Team Mexico. It seems like a personal question. What are some tips to share my passion for STEM with other girls in my community? So I guess, what can this girl do to spread her love like the three of us have been doing? We can start with Naoka if you want to.
Sure. I guess I would say that representation really matters. So showing yourself and other girls that you know in STEM doing cool things. We live in a time where social media is everywhere. A lot of people have access to it, to Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. So I think those are great tools to be able to share your love of STEM with other people. And if it starts in your community, that's awesome. But because the internet is so widespread, you can reach a lot of people through that. So I think showing yourself and other people like you doing these things is an awesome way to show that it's possible and encourage other girls to do that too.
Yeah, great answer. Victoria, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that was some wonderful suggestions. And it kind of goes back to who was your role model that encouraged you to go into this field. And generally the answer is there isn't just one role model, right? There's a bunch of people that will influence you and will inspire you, and just try to be one of those people. And you don't necessarily be that person by going to each individual person and telling them what they should do. Instead, you do what you're passionate about and show it. Let it be something that other people see and can be inspired about and think, hey, I can do that too. And being a woman in the sciences and having fun and doing cool things like that on its own will inspire other people. So you can go out to programs. There's like a high school program that allows mentors to come in and help teach code. Just find little ways to interact with people and to inspire. And you don't have to do anything big. Just exist, and do fun things and let other people see it and give them positive reinforcement. Like if they are curious, be welcoming. If they ask a question, answer it, etc. Just encourage that behavior and be excited for them too. They want to do something, even if you're not excited about it, be excited for them, and that will be inspiring. So
yep, I agree. And I'm thinking back to like robotics tournaments where you see the all girls teams, or you see, the one or two girls on the team. And like initially when I see that, like I want to go talk to them and I want to, talk about what they're doing, especially if they're drivers on their team. Or if they're back there and you see them like sitting there writing code, those are the people that I want to talk to. Another question that we had that came in is from Team Hungry. So what does being a woman in STEM mean to you? So we'll jump back to Victoria.
I guess I try not to think of myself as a woman in STEM. I'm just a person in STEM, and I focus on what impact I can make on the world, and it doesn't matter that I'm a woman, and I try not to make that distinction when I can.
Yeah, I can see that from some aspects, that it's just I don't want the titles. It's just I'm just here. I'm just an engineer. And not even just, I'm an engineer. Like, that's it. Naoka, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, I think it's important to recognize that there's no difference in ability between men and women when it comes to STEM fields, but women do have to overcome certain stereotypes or perceptions, or in some places, cultural barriers. So I do think it's a really awesome thing to be a woman in STEM. And I think, like we've been talking about this whole time, being a woman in STEM means that you can be a role model for somebody else, because it still, unfortunately, is somewhat of a rare thing. And that's changing, and hopefully it'll change quickly. But I agree. I mean, I think it's important to just consider ourselves first as engineers, because that's what we are, but also recognize that we may have had to overcome some different obstacles to get here. So,
yep, I agree wholeheartedly. So with that was actually our last question. So we are going to conclude today's STEM talk and interview. So thank you for joining us today and for taking the time to talk with us. Do either of you guys have any final words for us?
No, just thank you for having me. This is a really awesome program, and I'm excited that this was one of the STEM talk topics. Females in engineering is something that I've been passionate about for a long time. So I'm really excited to have been a part of this, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me as well. And I would like to encourage anyone that is pursuing STEM and wants to keep pursuing STEM. It's awesome, and you can have a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it. And I also want to have more women representation. Just honestly, any diversity, being a woman is part of that. And help us bring more to the table and design things that represent more of humanity, while we try to make it easier for humans to be alive and do the things that we do. So come join us, it's fun.
So as I said before, thank you both so much for joining us, and to the teams that are watching, thank you for joining us as well. And we look forward to seeing you at our next session.